Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We have another great show for you. I thank you for joining us. It's going to be a great show. We've got Professor Ron Cusson on the line from Orlando, Florida. So it's going to be a really, really fun show. I've got a few things to tell you before we introduce him, though. We do shows 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. From Southern California, we broadcast worldwide, so it's an honor and a privilege to be broadcasting to you today. And we are on Facebook, too. If you want to join us on there in our growing community, just go to extremehealthradio.com/Facebook. And thank you to Mike Adams of Natural News Radio. He's a great guy, and he has us on his network at naturalnewsradio.com. So thank you to Mike for that. And today is Friday, December 14th, 2012, for reference. This is episode number 48. So you could check it out at extremehealthradio.com/48, and you'll be able to find the show notes and any reference material, hopefully the transcription soon. So check that out. And if you have any questions for our guest, you can email them to me at justin@extremehealthradio.com, or you could call our voicemail line. Please do at 949-391-7363, and I'll play your message to our guest on the air. And this show is brought to you by actually Amazon. And if you make any purchases from Amazon through our link, we'll get a little commission during the holiday season and anytime, actually. So you can check that out at extremehealthradio.com/Amazon. That will take you to Amazon so you can make your purchase. And before I introduce Professor Ron Cusson, I'd like to just talk about our upcoming show schedule for the next week. We've got Elwyn Robinson out of the UK. He's an herbalist and doing a lot of great work with herbs and helping people using herbs. Then we've got Steve Storch, who's a master gardener, does a lot of great work with minerals and putting minerals back into the soil. And Ron Cusson will be talking about that today as well. And then we've got Dr. Lindsay Duncan. I've known about him for many, many years. And you can check out, I think, AskDrLindsay.com for that. And so make sure to join us for that show. And today we've got an interesting man, Professor Ron Cusson. He has had his share of health crises over the years, from diphtheria, pleuresia, scarlet fever, mumps, measles, tuberculosis, tonsillitis, hypertension, osteoporosis, all kinds of crazy things. And he also had type 2 diabetes, and he's a researcher, an avid researcher, and a physicist, and has his doctorate in physics and theoretical physics and nuclear physics. Smart guy. And he was a professor at Duke University, and he left his position there to pursue health because he was having so many issues with his health. So yeah, he left his position there, and now he is developing all kinds of amazing products coming from the ocean. So pretty intriguing stuff. Thank you, Doctor, for being on the show.
Thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, so how you doing today out there in Florida?
It is a mildly cloudy day, and it's about like spring in Canada.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little bit cold.
A little cold. So a little cold for you is probably about 60 degrees, huh?
That's right, yes, indeed. I expect Florida to be 75 degrees all the time.
Oh, right. You guys are so spoiled down there.
We are too.
So you've been involved in this kind of work for the past, how many years has it been for you?
I took retirement from doing physics at age 59, and I'm 74, so it's been 15 years.
About 15 years. Did you have to retire because of your health ailments, or you just wanted to in order to pursue better health?
It was a little bit of both. The work schedule was getting to be very tough, and I was getting ideas as to how I could do a great deal better than the consensus medical community.
And so you had, at the time, type 2 diabetes, is that right?
Indeed, I had, and it got to the point where it cost me a great deal of money because I would prepare trips in advance, non-refundable trips, and I would come up with an attack, and then I would be just stuck on the couch and not being able to move at all, practically a diabetic coma. So I said, enough of that.
Enough of that. So, wow. So with the diabetes, was it something that you think had been lingering for many, many years, or was it something that kind of popped up near the end of your working life?
If I had to guess, I've had a sweet tooth from childhood on. I used to eat sugar whenever I felt frustrated about something. So yeah, it's probably been lingering on for many years. And then it finally came out in the open, and I ended up, after a few years, getting rid of it.
Wow. So what do you make of the osteoporosis that it said that you had as a 25-year-old? That's pretty amazing.
Oh, indeed. The osteoporosis is also an interesting story, having to do with the difference between the coastal society and the cement society. The coastal society is a place where people live on the edge of the ocean, and they consume mostly sea vegetables and seafood, and they grow vegetables out of contaminated seawater that has already sweet water, has already seawater in it. So that's the coastal society. And then somewhere along the line, the society migrated to the cement society, which is the society inside. And the main characterization that distinguishes these two is that dietary ratios of calcium to magnesium in the coastal society is about 1 part 1 part calcium to 3 parts magnesium, high magnesium. And that's because ocean water has lots of magnesium in it. The second most abundant mineral in ocean water is magnesium after sodium. And then in the cement society, the opposite occurs. The ratio of calcium to magnesium is about 10 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium, and that's because calcium is made of rocks, and in the cement society, people mostly have rocky soil. So as a result of this extreme imbalance, the amount of magnesium in the diet is highly restricted. And what few people know is that in order to bring calcium into the bones, you must have lots and lots of magnesium. So osteoporosis results when there's not enough magnesium in the diet.
Wow, so you were starting to get symptoms of this as a 25-year-old young kid.
Oh, yeah. I started getting symptoms of soft tissue calcification. Generally, soft tissue calcification means that whatever calcium there is in your diet does not go to the bones, but it goes into your soft tissues. And then the bone calcium gets pulled out. The bone calcium gets pulled out when there's not enough magnesium in the diet. So the bone calcium gets pulled out, the bones get weaker, it's called osteoporosis, and then the joints get cluttered up with calcium so that the joints stop moving.
Wow, so you said a second ago that there's the typical cement society, I guess you would say, that the way you phrased it was the ideal is to have 1 part calcium and 3 parts magnesium, but you're saying it's like 10 to 1 the opposite direction.
It sure is, and that's a catastrophe. It is related to probably 95% of the degenerative diseases in our society.
You know, we had a professor on, Dr. William Wong, who does a lot of work in this field, and he talks about the same kind of thing where it has a lot to do with the fibrosis and the calcium that's in the body actually shrinking the organs, and as a result, your organs can't work right. And that's all has to do with calcium and fibrosis, doesn't it?
Yes, the great connection between calcium and magnesium has to do with the idea that on the surface of every cell in our body, there is a channel that communicates to the interior of the cell, and that channel is called by the medical community the calcium channel, and it allows calcium to come from the circulation, go into the cell and do its nefarious thing in there. Where actually the calcium channel also happens to be a magnesium channel. And so in the cement society, the calcium channel is filled with calcium, goes inside the cell and gets stuck there, whereas in the coastal society, magnesium goes through the calcium channel, works in there and does its stuff, and then pushes out the unwanted calcium.
Calcium and magnesium, are those the only 2 minerals that can get into those channels?
The particular channel called the calcium channel likes to see divalent minerals, and the 2 main more abundant ones in nutrition are calcium and magnesium. Other trace minerals, rare earths and things like that, heavy metals, can get through the calcium channel, but that's a secondary effect which we can talk about at some other point.
Yeah, it's interesting how there's so much focus in mainstream nutrition on things like calcium, but when you really look at it, I mean, that mineral is, I mean, I guess there are uses for it, but man, it's really causing people to be gummed up and calcified and all of that, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. It turns out that in terms of activity, the calcium is the mineral that allows your muscle to expand and contract. Mm-hmm. And so it's very important for sporting type people to be able to move fast. And they need a substantial amount of calcium to do that. Unfortunately, by the same token, magnesium is the mineral that allows the movement to slow down and relax. And so as we get older, we don't want to run as fast. We want to be able to slow down and relax, and then there's no magnesium left in there. And so basically, the calcium tries to make the muscle move faster, because and the magnesium should have been there to slow it down, but is not there, and yet the calcium has blocked all the cells of the body, and so the calcium tries to make the muscle expand and contract fast, but the cells of the muscles don't want to move, so it's very painful. It's like, you know, when you're pushing on a piece of wood that's stuck someplace and nothing happens.
Is that kind of why when you see people in really advanced age and when they want to walk or something like that, they really kind of move and they kind of lumber slowly? Is that because of their body being just gummed up with so much calcium, do you think?
Oh, yeah. And that's a major contributor to that effect.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about where people are getting all of this calcium, because that's one of the things that we need to make sure that we, you know, use correctly and not get too much of. Where are people getting all this calcium, do you think?
Well, the major source of dietary calcium is dairy products. So when people come to see us and ask us for recommendation, the first thing we tell them to do is cut out everything and anything that has any kind of dairy product in it.
So do you think it's dairy products aren't necessarily bad, it's just that there's too much calcium in it?
Well, dairy products are good for the calf. And the calf doesn't need a whole lot of magnesium. So dairy products are generally weak in magnesium and high in calcium. And this is not what human beings need.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So even if the cows are grass-fed and maybe all of that, it still has too much calcium in there.
Oh, indeed. The issue about grass feeding is that 300 years ago, when pastures had the Mother Nature's natural element abundance, the magnesium was present in the grass. But as civilization has advanced, more and more of the magnesium is being leached from the soil. And less of it is present, so there's less and less magnesium in dairy products in the end for that reason.
Do you think that there is maybe a good side to that if you were able to water the grass with ocean water, because grasses take up all 92 minerals? Do you think that if you watered the grass with ocean water and then you allowed the cows to eat that grass, what do you think the calcium to magnesium ratio would be in the dairy products at that point? All right,
that's an excellent question, Justin. It turns out that vegetables do not like sodium. And 75% of the minerals in ocean water is sodium chloride. So if you want to water your lawn with ocean water, you have to first remove the calcium, remove the sodium. It turns out that Mother Nature has given us a nice way to do that. If you bring ocean water in an evaporation basin and let the sunlight form a white layer on top, that white layer is sodium chloride. So you skim it off, and instead of selling it as sea salt, like a lot of people do, you bury it. Make sure that nobody gets their hands on it. Left behind what's called the bitters, and the bitters has mostly magnesium chloride, and plus all sorts of other trace minerals. So if you collect the bitters and you dilute it to the tune of around 300 or 400 parts per million with whatever sweet water you can find, and you can use that to water the grass. You can use that to fertilize your soil. You can use that basically as drinking water. Life changes radically.
Wow. Last night we bought some raw grass-fed yogurt. Now I'm scared to eat it.
The issue is age. A healthy individual during the first 20, 25, 30 years, 35 years of his life probably has the ability to transmute, in the sense of biological transmutation, excess sodium into magnesium. However, sometime between the age of 35 and 45, human beings appear to lose the ability to do that. And so they need now to start replacing the excess sodium by actual natural magnesium.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff, because I can pretty much guarantee that most people who are doing, or most companies that are doing the dairy and producing the dairy products, they're not watering the grass with the right water. And so I can see where you're talking about, if there's so much calcium in that stuff and people are eating that their whole life, I can see how they start having fibrosis and calcium-related diseases, which are most diseases, right? They're all related to calcium?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All right, we are with Dr. Ron Cusson, and we got to take a short break. I forgot to mention his website is Essence C, ESSENCE, and then SEA.com, essencec.com. And we'll be right back after this break. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you have been following our work for any length of time, you understand the role of beneficial bacteria. And I'm wondering if you have incorporated any fermented foods into your diet. There's a great course recommended by Donna Gates, actually, and it's called How to Ferment Anything. And you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/ferment. And it teaches you how to make all of these amazing, wonderful fermented foods. And if you know anything about the role of bacteria in digestion, it's absolutely critical for you to have fermented foods in your diet. Every culture has had fermented foods as part of their staple in their diet for as long as you can go back and remember. So I highly recommend learning how to make fermented foods and incorporating these foods into your diet, because they are extremely powerful for helping you to digest your food, improve your digestion. And as you know, all disease begins in the colon. So having better digestion and increasing your load of beneficial bacteria is going to help you to prevent sicknesses and diseases, colds and flus, as well as more major diseases as well. So I highly recommend you learning how to ferment some foods, and they taste delicious too, just so you know. So check it out at extremehealthradio.com/ferment to learn more. Okay, we are with Professor Ron Cusson, Dr. Cusson. So, we've effectively listed milk and dairy products as a place where people are getting some of these calcium deposits. Where else in their diet do you think people are getting all of this calcium?
Well, for example, if you consume a certain Japanese product called nigiri, nigiri, what it does is it contains ocean minerals with the sodium removed, so it has 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. And you could use that to flavor your food, although it does not taste good. Nevertheless, suppose you did put that in your water and you drank it, and it didn't taste good, but you drank it anyway. What you would be getting is some calcium, but a lot of magnesium, and you do not want to eliminate that. There are plenty of vegetables who contain around 1 part calcium to, if you're lucky, 1 part magnesium, and you do not want to eliminate that. You need some calcium in the diet. The only place where the calcium excess is really extreme and damaging is in dairy products. Once you eliminate dairy products, you can pretty much are free to just enjoy life and eat all the foods that you want, including seafood and sea vegetables.
What do you think about the calcium in our municipal water? Do you think that that's an issue?
Oh, and that's very, very interesting, yes. So let me tell you a little story around that one. Thank you for this question, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
What's so-called hard water? Hard water consists of calcium and magnesium in the form of calcium bicarbonate and magnesium bicarbonate. Now, both calcium bicarbonate and magnesium bicarbonate are unstable, which means that when you let the hard water evaporate on the surface of your faucet, it will create a white stain on the faucet. Mm-hmm. And the white stain is calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. Both calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate are indigestible and insoluble. So if you were to scrape off that white stain and eat it with your food, it would go right through you. And of course, unfortunately, that happens to be what the calcium supplements and the magnesium supplements are. They're more or less useless and worthless because the very little bits that get absorbed have two or three parts magnesium, 2 or 3 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium, and the rest of it goes right through you. So now, most hard water sources, municipal or otherwise, will contain 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium. So they're very high in calcium bicarbonate and have only a little bit of magnesium bicarbonate. This is the opposite of what you would like. In the best of all worlds, you would like to have hard water that has a large quantity of magnesium bicarbonate and a very small quantity of calcium bicarbonate. There are some sources in Northern California who will sell that kind of magnesium bicarbonate water, and it's very high up in the mountains, and we need big trucks, and so it's very expensive to ship it, but we certainly do recommend to everybody that they drink as much of that water as they can get.
Wow, so people really should have some kind of filter on their water and probably not even drink. I don't drink the tap water, but people should really have a filter for that stuff, shouldn't they?
Oh, they should, and it's very, very hard to remove the calcium bicarbonate. And when you do, using a variety of water filters, you end up replacing it with sodium bicarbonate. And that's bad news, too, because it ends up increasing the amount of sodium in the diet.
So probably the municipal water and the dairy products are the 2 main sources of calcium that people are getting in their bodies throughout their lifetime.
That sure is. And we tell people our recommendation is to forget drinking tap water, get a reverse osmosis or get some distilled water, and then add some supplements to the water, which will increase the amount of magnesium bicarbonate, and put only a tiny amount of calcium bicarbonate, and drink all that you can drink of that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so now let's go to the magnesium side. So we've kind of labeled and pointed out what the calcium foods are. What about the magnesium? Are there foods that are really high in magnesium, and then are there foods that perhaps steal magnesium from your body?
Oh, yeah. Foods that are high in magnesium. If you put magnesium fertilizer in on the soil and you grow practically any vegetable, you will get organically chelated magnesium compounds in there. And these are what's saving most people. They're very good, but the chelation is an organic chelation, it's an organic molecule, and it puts a signature, and it prevents this particular magnesium form from being absorbed by most of the cells of the body. And so you would need hundreds, if not thousands, of those chelated magnesium things to supply the appropriate amount of magnesium to the body. So, and then, of course, seafood. Seafood and sea vegetables are all high in magnesium. And if you were to combine well-fertilized fruit and vegetable with seafood, you would have an acceptable magnesium in your diet.
What do you think about all the mercury in the ocean and the seafood?
Well, yes, it's an important issue, and what we think needs to be done is to strengthen the immune system so that mercury can be more effectively eliminated from the ocean water. That story revolves around what's called the lymph pH. The lymph pH of a healthy human being is around 7.4, and the lymph pH of the average citizen of the United States is around 6.2. Now, the pH is a logarithmic scale, and when the pH goes from 6.2 to 7.4, or say from 7.4 to 6.2, you lose 95% of the oxygen in the lymph. with the oxygen gone, your immune system that behaves like a flamethrower does not have the oxygen that it needs to burn the magnesium, to burn, say, the mercury and get rid of it. And so therefore the immune system falters and operates at something like 5 or 6% on a healthy person. Thank you. And that is a cause of a lot of trouble. At that point, the heavy metals accumulate in the body, and all sorts of heavy metal degeneration can occur.
Wow, so it's important to keep that lymph pH right where it needs to be at 7.4. It's
very important, and in practice, you keep it between 7 and 7.2, and so 7 and 7.4, and so the average pH of a very healthy person will oscillate around 7.2, and there are now companies that come up and start explaining to people how to keep the pH up at the right value. We are so convinced that this is irrelevant that you'll find some quotes on our website on how to have a two-pronged attack. So the first prong attack is to produce magnesium supplementation. Second one is to produce a pH maintenance system that will keep the pH around 7.2, and then the levels of health increases tremendously at that point.
Does rebounding help the pH of the lymph? Because we do a lot of rebounding around here. Does that help the health of the lymph system?
It sure does. I love doing rebounding myself. I have a rebounder, and also I have a whole body vibration platform.
Oh.
Both of those have the ability to circulate the lymph in the body, and therefore do a tremendous service to your immune system.
Wow. Did you ever think you would get one day as into health as you are now? I mean, you got a whole body vibration system. I mean, at 25, did you ever see yourself getting so into health like this?
When I was 25, all I wanted to do was to get my PhD and earn big-time money in our materialistic society.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a trap that we all get caught up in throughout life, isn't it, in our American culture?
And I will tell you just that I didn't have the wisdom to figure it out. It's only because at the age of 59, I was so sick, and I said, oh, there has to be more to it than that. That I started looking at all my goals and arranging things.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's good that you've finally come around. So, all right. So we have the lymph system and the foods that we're talking about that are high in magnesium. What about chocolate? Is that high in magnesium?
Chocolate can have a lot of good magnesium, and it can be a stimulant to the immune system. And if there's magnesium in the chocolate, depending on how it's grown, and if there's magnesium in the body, depending on how the body is fed, the combination produces a very powerful reaction that pushes magnesium into the cells that need it, and that helps create energy for the body.
Wow. So what are some of the foods, like you said, you were talking about growing some of your own foods with a substance that you could put into the soil. And then, so what are some other foods that are really high in magnesium that people could start adding into their diet, do you think?
Green leafy vegetables, when grown with the right kind of magnesium fertilizer, and we sell on our website one such fertilizer that people can find. There are others, will be high in magnesium and relatively benign in calcium.
Wow, and that's a fertilizer that people would they dilute that and then water their plants with it? Is that how it works?
That's right. We sell it as a concentrate, which is activated using something we call the Implosion Technology, which allows these minerals in the fertilizer to grab hold into the root hair and go into the plants more readily.
Wow, that's interesting. So you just mentioned the Volixer. What do you make of the power of the vortexing energies on the planet?
Right. It turns out that in the Middle Ages, in the early 1920, the magnetic field of the planet Earth was very strong. And so anytime you did some vortexing, you would cut the magnetic lines of force, and that had some very beneficial effects. However, right around now, this is the year 2012, the magnetic field of the planet Earth is going through zero. It's called the pole shift by some people. And as a result of that, vortexing has a great deal less power now than it did only 100 years ago. So what we have done is we have understood what the problem is, and we supply an artificial magnetic field, which we put in, which comes from charging capsule, and then we use a mechanical system like a blender to vortex the water in the presence of its mineral in that magnetic field, and indeed we recover 99% of the old power of vortexing.
So when you're vortexing, you're really kind of doing like an implosion kind of energy, aren't you?
We certainly are, and the implosion energy can be understood on the basis of advanced quantum mechanics, we might say. Quantum mechanics that most people don't usually bother, but which I happened to learn when I was a physicist.
So the implosion technology that you're talking about, the vortexing, what really that does is it sort of spins, it acts and spins just like waves make a cycle, a circle, hurricanes, all kinds of actions on the Earth. The Earth spins and the sun spins. This whole spinning action, there's a lot of power to that, isn't there?
It sure is. You have heard of the Kundalini. There are people who experience the Kundalini rising, and it is a spinning energy that begins at the bottom of the spine and rises up to the top of the head. And that spinning energy of the Kundalini is what we call the biomagnetic field. It is part of the planet, it is part of every plant, and it's part of every animal, and it shows up when you do the right kind of vortexing.
Have you ever done or heard of the 5 rights exercise, where part of one of the 5 exercises you do is spinning around? Have you ever done that or heard of that?
Yes, I have heard of that, and I think that these are excellent energies. They connect with both the biomagnetic energy and with the bioelectric energy, which deals with sacred geometry. So the actual position of the limbs becomes relevant at that point.
And I've heard that when you spin the water, it actually allows it to become in such a way where it looks like a honeycomb as far as the structure, the hexagonal structure of the water. The molecules all stick together, and because of that, it actually can penetrate the cells easier and deliver nutrition. Is that kind of what you've come to learn as well?
Oh yeah, it sure is. The water molecules inside of the cells are organized into hexagonal clusters, which means 6 water molecules forming a snowflake. And the cell has learned to recognize that. So when it sees water that comes in to the body from nutrients, say it's supposed to eat an orange, then the water in the orange is all clustered hexagonally, and that when that hits your stomach, the stomach says, this is food. And so they speed that to the cells of your body. On the other hand, if you drink orange juice that's been pasteurized, just a simple act of pasteurizing it changes the clustering structure. And the stomach looks at that and says, that's not food, it's poison. And so what it does, it sends it to the kidneys right away, and then the kidneys start to get rid of it as it would naturally get rid of a poison.
Wow. That's interesting. We had a professor on, Dr. John Apsley up in Seattle, I think he is, and he's doing a lot of work with healing people from cancer naturally. And he's got like a 4-pillar approach, and one of his pillars, the entire pillar, is structured, vortexed, spun water. And it's pretty interesting when you start learning about all the attributes that structured and spun water has versus a fragmented water that you would get at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah. It is captivating, the knowledge is spreading, and we believe at this point that it is possible to arrange the nutrition, including a lot of raw food, properly grown raw food, mostly vegetarian, but not exclusively, to extend the period of extreme longevity to hundreds of years while having fun on paradise on earth.
Wouldn't that be a fun thing, huh?
Oh, yeah. At the age of 37, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just laughing. I just think that would be amazing. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, that would be fabulous.
So how long do you think the body can live if you were able to do everything correctly, do you think?
Well, all right. It is my belief, and I will tell you that it has to do with the phenomenon of knowledge without certainties. You know, scientists want to prove things. They want certainty. What my beliefs are centered around is knowledge. I know it's going to be that way, but I can't prove it to you. Belief without certainty then has value. My belief is that once your body gets to be around 625 years old, you evaporate. You become a soul.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I want to talk more about that. We got to take a short break here, but I want to talk more about that and some of your products and vortexing and all this good stuff. So we are with Professor Ron Cusson and his website. Fascinating guy is essencec.com, and he's got lots of great products on there. So check that out to look for all of his stuff. So we'll be right back with Professor Ron Cusson after this break. Hey guys, hopefully you're enjoying the interview so far. I've been so hot on rebounding lately, and I just love it. You know, I do it at the gym, and people just look at me crazy, but rebounding is one of the most healthy exercises you could ever do. It tones and works out every muscle in your body, even your eyes, and every cell in the body is exercised by the up and down motion of jumping on a mini trampoline. And we feel like we've got the best rebounder on the market. It's called the Bellicon. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. It is got a 5-year warranty on the frame and mat, and there's a 10-day money-back guarantee, so you can just ship it back if you don't like it. But it's really the Rolls-Royce of rebounding, and if you listen to any of the health experts, it's the best way to detoxify your lymphatic system. And your lymphatic system is responsible for, among many things, but it stores poisons and toxins in your body, and it's one of the best exercises that you can do to drain your lymphatic system. And a lot of people do it if they have cancer. They'll rebound with oxygen, and it's one of the most therapeutic and best exercises you could ever do. It works out every single muscle in your body, every single cell in your body. It's just phenomenal. So check it out at extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. All right, we are with Professor Ron Cusson. We actually just ran an ad for a rebounder called the Bellicon, and it's Bellicon if you're interested in that. And Professor, before the break, you were talking about how if we did everything correctly, we'd be 600 years old. So I've got hopefully 563 more years left.
You should do. Going to heaven because your life is not working is not an option.
Wow. So where did you get that number, 600 or above? Where do you get that?
There's information about the structure of the DNA that suggests that the number of replications of the DNA that you can successfully do is such that around the age of 600, there's a transmutation of the consciousness that takes place. And that transmutation does not make you die. It makes you become a disembodied consciousness.
Wow. I've heard recently that the cell itself is almost pretty much immortal, isn't it?
It sure is. And if it was, we're talking cells alone, that would be fine. That would last forever. But the cell has to integrate with the other many trillions of cells in the physical body. And that's when the transmutation into a disembodied consciousness takes place.
That's fascinating. So you were talking a second ago about the charging capsules. How can people get those charging capsules to put on their blenders?
If you go to our website and you send an email to our commercial address, info@snc.com, that's going to be on the website, we can send you more details in which we make these things to order. We do not stock them. And so we can build something to order for you depending on your desires and so on and so on.
Wow. And so these are things that people, can they take them on and off their Vitamix, or are they kind of stuck to the outside carafe there?
You got it. That we used to stick them to the outside carafe, and now we make them removable, attached with rubber bands.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's great. And so typically if someone were to do that, I'd love to do that, but I use my Vitamix in my blender like twice a day. So if I were to want to do that, how long would you have my carafe there until it came back?
We would send you the charging capsules attached to a set of rubber bands, and they would clip around the jar, so you would not have to send us the jar. Even more interesting, you could get something called the Nutri Bullet, not the magic bullet, the Nutri Bullet. which is a $120 piece of equipment. And you could attach our charging capsule around that, and you would get essentially the same effect. Instead of having 64 ounces at a time, you would only have 24 ounces at a time.
Yeah, I've seen David Wolf on the infomercials for that NutriBullet. It looks like a good little machine there. It's
a fabulous machine. I highly recommend it.
Really? Well, I have the Magic Bullet, and that thing kind of fell apart on me. But the NutriBullet, I think, is a different product altogether. It's more powerful, isn't it?
Completely different. No comparison.
Wow. So people can vortex their own water. I like that.
Oh, yeah. And we sell the concentrate, liquid concentrate that you can add to reverse osmosis water or distilled water. So you put some concentrate in that water, and then you vortex that, and then you get some of these fabulous detoxification, brain fog removing properties.
Wow, and what's in the concentrate that you put in there?
Thank you for asking. It turns out that, all right, we're getting the echo again, but let me try to speak through that. 5% solution of magnesium bicarbonate. That's 50,000 parts per million of magnesium bicarbonate is what's in that concentrate. And then when you dissolve that into your water to the point where it becomes around 1,500 parts per million, so 50,000 to 1,500 is about 30 to 1 dissolution. What happens is that you now are able to activate the magnesium bicarbonate, put some hexagonal water clusters around it called water chelation. And when you drink that water and then you put a little bit of glucose in there, it ends up tasting sweet, syrupy, and your stomach sends that to all the cells of your body. And then the magnesium bicarbonate gets inside the cell. The magnesium goes one side and kicks out the unwanted calcium. The bicarbonate goes on the other side, kills cancer cell, and ends up increasing the amount of energy so you have a more energetic lifestyle.
Jeez.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing thing. So why is magnesium, that's kind of like a lost mineral that we've come to know, but it's actually one of the most important minerals, because we've talked about how calcium is kind of gums us up and is dangerous in certain respects. Why is magnesium the number one mineral, do you think?
All right, let's go back to the ocean. The physical body emerged from the ocean, and so we look at the mineral ratios in the ocean. 80% of the minerals in the ocean is sodium, about 15% is magnesium, and about 5% is calcium. So the body quickly learned how to defend itself against excess calcium, excess sodium. So what goes into the body is 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. Human physiology is designed to run around magnesium, and the magnesium is used to take the calcium from the water and then push it into the bone and lock it in there so that the bone stays strong. Magnesium is used to let the muscles of the body relax. Magnesium is used at thousands of different biochemical reactions inside the body.
Yeah, I've heard it's the most necessary mineral because it's used the most throughout every cellular interaction inside the body. It's so necessary for everything to happen, and that's why people are so depleted in magnesium, isn't it?
It sure is. The body needs it, so as soon as it gets hold of a little bit of it, it sends it to the place where it's more urgently needed, and unfortunately magnesium is consumed. It gets transmuted into a form that's no longer capable of doing any work, so you get to keep replenishing the magnesium.
Now, I have a magnesium that I bought from the health food store that I spray onto my skin every night before bed. Do you offer a similar sort of magnesium lotion like that?
Yeah, we sure do. It's on our website. We call it the Sea Relief Lotion, and it has value. It's definitely putting that on your body as many times a day as you can. For example, it helps people who have arthritis in their hands. We have old golfers have trouble holding the clubs because of arthritis in their hands, and we explain to them that they should rub the magnesium oil, we call it C-Relief lotion, on their hands, and then put the gloves on, and then just exercise their hands and warm them up. And then, lo and behold, they're able to work the clubs.
Wow, it's pretty fascinating. We had a doctor, what was his name? Dr. Circus on, and he's doing a lot of work with magnesium. And I think he's got like a 3-tier thing that he does with cancer. And one of the whole things that he does is magnesium, transdermal magnesium therapy, he calls it.
Dr. Circus is one of my great heroes. He and I have had many communications. He has been a great deal of inspiration. He combines magnesium chloride with sodium bicarbonate. And under his inspiration, we have found a way to produce, in commercial quantities, magnesium bicarbonate. So that when you just stick to one magnesium bicarbonate, it does all the good stuff that magnesium can do inside the cell, and it does all the good stuff that the bicarbonate can do. How much fun can we spend?
Oh, man, I know. So because of that, it's such a great treatment for cancer, he's finding out, right?
Well, let me say that there are some people who believe that cancer is a fungus.
Uh-huh.
Now, it turns out that if cancer were a fungus, then the inner workings of a cancer cell would operate at a pH around 4.5. However, if you combine magnesium bicarbonate and a little bit of glucose inside of a water chelated thing, what happens is that the glucose is very attractive to a cancer cell or to a fungus cell because it gets absorbed by that cell, because that cell needs a lot of sugar. Because it's operating at a low pH and it's very inefficient in generating energy. So it takes this in, and the bicarbonate goes in there and separates from the magnesium. And the first thing that the bicarbonate does is it yanks the pH of that cell to 8.5 from 4.5, where it was saying. And then at a pH of 8.5, the energy production is so much better. However, this being a fungus cell, possibly even a cancer cell, we don't know that for sure. The cell is now instructed to commit apoptosis, which means programmed cell death. And so fungi and possibly cancer cell get destroyed by magnesium bicarbonate very elegantly.
Wow, that's fascinating information. We have to cut out from Natural News Radio. Thank you to Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com for having us on his network. We appreciate that. So this cancer fungus thing, would cancer be considered like a soft tissue calcification as well then?
Well, what we believe is going on is that when there is a magnesium deficiency, the soft tissues will naturally calcify. They go together. Now, once a piece of soft tissue has been calcified that way, then if that soft tissue happens to be in the adult stem cell system, then the new cell that's going to replace the old cells, that cell is now hampered. It limps because it has too much calcium in it. And when it goes and does the replacement of the new cell, the overabundance of calcium in that new cell generally produces an offspring, which is such low quality that the immune system concludes that the old cell that had just died has not been killed. And so it says the new cell that's put in place is not the same liver cell that it's taken care of. Because it's not the same liver cell, the adult stem cell system tries to send another one, and another one, and another one, and all of a sudden you have a tumor. And that, my friend, is called cancer.
Oh, wow. So how many times should a cell be able to replicate before it effectively doesn't have any of the DNA or the telomeres on there to be a functional cell?
All right, you have to look at this as to whether it is a stem cell. You know, a stem cell, if you look at the growing tip of a plant, the growing tip of a plant has got a cell called a stem cell. But if you look at the bark of a tree, there's clearly there's cells there, but these cells do not duplicate. So only stem cells will duplicate, will reproduce themselves. Under the right circumstances, all the stem cells in the human body can duplicate at infinity. That's what the infinite lifetime issue is all about. However, in practice, once you have a cell that has differentiated, no longer a stem cell, it becomes a liver cell. Then the liver cell does not duplicate itself anymore. It performs a certain function, and then it dies. And then it sends a message, and it says, okay, I need a new liver cell to replace the one that just died. Well, that one that's being sent is a stem cell. The stem cell arrives in the neighborhood, starts duplicating itself. One side of it picks up the covering of the old liver cell that's dying, and the other side is supposed to be killed by vitamin B17, apricot extract.
Mm-hmm.
And so a new liver cell is now produced in its place. So in that sense, liver cells do not live more than once.
I see. So something's happening in the transference from the stem cell to when it differentiates into any other cell that's causing it not to be able to replicate for infinity, I guess.
Exactly. And what that thing that's happening is the covering on the DNA. 97% of the DNA of any one cell is covered and used to be called junk DNA, but now people are knowing better. It's just that the 3% that's uncovered is the one that instructs the cell to be a liver cell.
Oh, okay. So what about the 97% that is covered? Where does that go?
The 90% that's covered is being treated as a bank account. Every cell of your body contains all sorts of information additionally to make a new kind of human being that we expect is going to be there in the age of Aquarius.
What do you make of I've always been interested in the Bible and the stories back in Genesis where it talks about people living till they're 900 and things like that. What do you make of all that?
Oh, I think it's absolutely 100% correct.
I wonder why they were living so long back then. It's such an amazing thing. I mean, I've often thought about that.
Well, for one thing, human beings were living in a coastal society. In biblical times, all societies fed themselves off of the ocean, one way or the other. And it's when civilization moved from the coastal society to the cement society that the lifespan took a plunge. And the plunge is mostly because of this extreme change in the calcium to magnesium ratio.
Wow. Because I've often wondered about those people and, did they, at 30 years old, were they the equivalent of a 5-year-old, or did they have a long period of adulthood and then a long period of being very, very old? I always wonder how they aged and all of that. I guess we'll never know, will we?
We won't know for sure, but the best guesses we have is that people would look like they're 30 years old for several hundred years, and then at the end of their lifespan, they would hear the call for a new form of consciousness, and then the soul would elegantly go out of the physical body and go do something else, and then the physical body would pretty much fall to dust very rapidly.
Wow. One of the things I wanted to get to before we take off is I wanted to get your opinions about sea salt and whether or not you think that's healthy or not, or if it's not, what other alternatives to sea salt are there?
Well, indeed, it's an excellent question. There are some sea salts that are manufactured by remixing the white layer on top of the evaporation basin, which is pure sodium chloride, with the deep layer under that, which is called the bitters. They remix them and they reproduce a mineral, sort of kind of a wet, grayish mineral soup that behaves more or less like full spectrum ocean minerals. And that I have a lot of respect for. I think it's excellent. But personally, what we do here is we sell a liquid that you spray from a spray bottle. And what that liquid does is it removes half of the sodium from ocean minerals, and it increases the amount of magnesium accordingly, so that you still have the same total mineral content, but you now have balanced sodium magnesium. The taste is vastly improved. It's a lot better than sea salt, and it's a lot healthier for you.
So you could essentially just kind of spray your dinner plate with this substance in place of just sprinkling some sea salt on there.
That's right. And our recommendation is that you burn your tongue if the food is hotter than 119 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to ever prepare food at a temperature higher than 118 degrees Fahrenheit.
So do you eat mostly raw, or do you eat some cooked foods as well, or what's your diet kind of like?
I eat poorly cooked food.
You eat what?
A poorly cooked food is food that has not been heated hot enough to destroy the enzyme.
Oh, poorly cooked food. Yeah, that's good. So you eat mostly or all raw?
Yeah, mostly all raw as much as I can. In polite society, you end up eating what your guests will offer.
Uh-huh.
So I never make it a missionary point. But yeah, that's the idea.
Wow, mostly all raw. And do you do a lot of blended foods as well, or?
Oh, yeah. Smoothies using our Volixer and using the base of magnesium bicarbonate water. Here's something that we've discovered. If you take a glass of fruit juice, whole fruit juice, it has around 150 calories per 8-ounce glass. Now, if we start with our Sea Relief water, it's another one of our products, and then we put just enough fruit juice in there to give around 25 calories per 8-ounce glass, okay?
Uh-huh.
We're talking about, 6 times fewer calories per glass.
Okay.
The taste of that is the same as the full-strength fruit juice.
Oh, wow. Really? Because of the magnesium that you're putting in there?
Because of the magnesium, because of the water chelation that enhances the taste of things.
Wow, that sounds interesting. So if people want to call up, is there a phone number on your website and they can purchase? Because I'm sure people listening might want to talk with someone to get a particular product that's going to be right for them, because you have some really unique things.
Yes, right.
So they can call up.
Yes, there's a phone number on the website which people can use. And there is an email address that they can use. And we have a shopping cart. And they don't have to pay right there on the shopping cart. They can send us the order through the shopping cart, and then we'll contact them and give them a bunch of options on how they can pay for things or how they can talk with us.
Oh, how great. Golly, you're doing some great work. I love it.
Oh, yeah, we're having fun.
Much more fun than physics, no?
Oh, much more fun than physics, absolutely. Physics is lost, We have formulated advancement. There's some YouTube videos coming out on that. Advancements on physics that suggest that modern physics has lost its way.
I'm a fan of theoretical physics, so that's...
We'll have theoretical physics for you that include the life force.
Oh, fascinating. So have you written any books at all, or no? Because you have so much great information.
We're planning on it. We're planning to write a book on metalogics.
Wow.
Metalogics is done.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Metalogics means something that's beyond traditional logics.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. So, well, thank you, Professor Ron, for being on our show today. Really, really appreciate your time and your energy and tons of great stuff. I could talk with you for hours about all this stuff.
And I could talk with you too, Justin. You have all the right questions in your mind.
Well, thank you. Would you mind holding as I close out the show?
I'm good. Go for it. I'll wait until you tell me to hang up. Okay,
excellent. Wow. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. That was an amazing show. I feel like I could talk with Professor Cusson for hours. Oh, man, that was such good information. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot out of it. And thank you for listening. I wanted to tell you, too, that we are fully listener supported. So if you decide to donate, we would be greatly, greatly appreciative of that. We don't want to charge for our website. We want to make sure that everything is free so that others can enjoy it and get this really, really good information for free. So if you can donate, you can donate through PayPal as little as $1 if you'd like. Every little bit would help. But if you can't, no big deal. I don't want you to feel pressured. No problem at all. Just pass on our show maybe to your friends and tell people about it, or follow us on Facebook and sign up to our newsletter. There's all kinds of ways that you could support us without donating. So thank you again. And also, We have a store on our website. We're rebuilding it right now, but we've got a store with lots of great products like blenders and rebounders and juicers and dehydrators and e-courses on how to ferment foods and lots of great stuff. So check out our store. And so I just want to thank you so much for listening to this show and joining us and learning and following us. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that your life is good, your Christmas season is